Hey everyone, the Collector 27 here, coming at you guys with another awesome action figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the G.I. Joe classified Hasbro 6-inch Snake Eyes. Look at that. Let's take a closer look. Alright, so first off, huge shout out to my best bud Leo. He sent this out my way. I'm not super familiar with G.I. Joes, and I never really grew up watching or being associated with them very much. But when I saw that Hasbro was doing almost like a Marvel Legends style 6-inch G.I. Joe figures, I was like, oh man, that looks pretty cool actually. And so he's like, hey man, you gotta get this figure. And so I was like, yeah, I'll get my hands on it one day. And he's just like, boom, send it out to me. And so thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. I've been nonstop just posing this guy. Let's get into the rest of the review. Okay, so before we get into the rest of the details on the figure, let's take a look at the accessories. So Snake Eyes comes with two guns, a knife, and a sword, and this backpack, which they all look really good. Um, Again, I'm not super familiar with the character very much, like I am with Marvel characters. I know more about that than I do about G.I. Joes. However, if I am correct from the research I've done, all of these are kind of like an homage to the original G.I. Joe figures from way back when, the backpack and all that. The main differences between this version of Snake Eyes and the one that was actually released as a New York Toy Fair exclusive, I believe it was a New York Toy Fair exclusive, is that he comes with these weapons, these guns, which are a little bit more, I guess, sci-fi looking. They're not very realistic. Like this looks like a blaster with some sort of just weird hole in the center, which we'll get into the weapon storage later, but I'm not really sure why that hole is there. If anyone knows, please let me know down in the comments below. I don't understand why there would be a hole on. Let's see. I don't think it's focusing very well, but don't see a reason why there would be a hole on this gun in comparison to the others where these have a reason to have a hole on them, I guess. Like, it doesn't even have a peg or anything like that like this one. But, so I'm just going to call this one some sort of futuristic SMG. So put that on there. And then this one is obviously a pistol. But the coolest part about this is that it has a silencer that can actually be attached. Let's see. There we go. Just press it. And that looks really cool. So that's a really cool little gimmick that this figure has, so that's really neat. Obviously, we'll get into all the storage a little bit later of where everything goes, but there's some really good sculpting detail on the sword, on the backpack. There's some silver on the buckles here and there, and then on the sword sheath, there's a little it's kind of like a little Cobra logo, I believe. No, not Cobra logo. Again, I'm not super familiar with these, so with the G.I. Joe logos and which all of them mean. So please let me know down in the comments below what this one is. I just think this is just a great figure just to have for anyone, even if you're not a super big G.I. Joe fan. So now that we're through with the accessories, let's get on to the details of the figure. Alright, so this figure is actually very detailed, all things considered. I mean, he is mostly mostly all done in this black plastic, but I don't know if there's any paint on here. It's hard to tell if it's, if there's any black paint on here, but you can tell that there is a slight gloss on the visor, while the helmet or the rest of the mask is a little bit more matted, along with some parts of the torso, the forearms, and even in kind of like the shin and calf area. There's just these different areas that are either a different plastic or have this gloss or some sort of paint on him. So that's pretty much it for in terms of paint. There's just other spots here where there's like a bit of red on the forehead, another logo right there on his belt, and then just silver for the buckles just across the figure. Not very much on the back other than on the elbow pads. Again, these little red marks, these little red lines. But the sculpt is really good. So this is the exact same figure, exact same sculpt that is with the deluxe edition that came out a while back that I believe was the New York Toy Fair exclusive, if I'm correct. But I didn't get that one. I know a lot of people did. I didn't. Looking now that I have this figure, I would have loved to have had that one, have a whole bunch more weapons. But this one is done all black. I believe the only difference between this one and the deluxe exclusive one was that some of the pouches were actually done in a light gray, almost like a brown, while this one is done in an all black plastic. Alright, so now let's try and put all these weapons and accessories on Snake Eyes himself. So there is the backpack, which there is a peg back here, and this strap is removable if you wanted to just peg the backpack directly into the back and remove the strap. I'm not going to do that because I think it's cool having the grenades across his chest. Having a bunch of weapons on Snake Eyes is always really cool, so let's plug that one on there. Now, I will say, if you're going to have the backpack on, it does add a bit of weight to the figure, so if you go to stand him up, he might fall back. So you're going to have to push him forward a little bit to maybe to get his weight just, there you go, a little bit better, so he doesn't fall back. There is a sword sheath, which you can also, if you want to remove the backpack and just have the sword sheath back there, you can angle it whichever way you want. That's probably how I'm going to have mine, just because the backpack does add a bit of weight. But the cool thing that Hasbro did is that if you have the backpack on there, go, and you have the sword sheath, you can actually plug it in right here, or you can plug in this SMG thing with that peg right there, and then plug this sword sheath into the hole that is on the gun. And then just be careful not to snap anything, so it won't go in all the way. And you can have all of his weapons, and I guess I should put the sword in there, but you can have all of his weapons stored on his back. But again, at least to me, that looks a little bit ridiculous. Having it like this is probably what I'm not going to have him like this. That looks too bulky and it adds too much weight to the back. So let's just take all that off. He does have a holster for both the pistol and, let's see, we'll put the pistol in there, and that just goes in nice and easy. It looks like it should go down a little bit more, but that's as far as it goes on mine. So, and then even for the silencer to go through the front, through this loop right here, let's see, just slide that through. And then, I'm always gonna be honest with you guys. Let's see, where's my knife? The knife, there it is. Alright, so on his left leg, he has this small holster or sheath for his knife. And I'm always going to be honest with you guys. I had trouble with it where the knife, it goes in all the way now. So I know a lot of people were having trouble with it, and I've seen ongoing issues. People like Shardimus Prime and even the Fwoosh, their knife, if they were to put it in, it would only go in about that far. That was how far it went on mine originally. So what I did is I actually did a little bit of surgery on this. Is I cut it open, peeled it apart, re-sculpted the inside, and then sealed it again, and then painted over it and did this gloss finish on it, so that way it kind of matches that gloss on the actual Hasbro done holster. And so, because it was always bothering me that the knife would just stick out like that and it would just get in the way of posing, so now it goes in all the way. So I was able to fix it, and you could hardly tell that anything was ever done to it. So that's nice now. So in terms of accessories and where they go, how I'm going to have mine displayed is probably just going to be very simplistic. I'm going to have just his sword on his back, and then the gun and knife in their sheaths. Maybe he'll hold it or something like that. But I don't think I'm really going to get much use out of this backpack. It's very heavy. It's a solid piece of plastic. Maybe if it was lighter or hollow, it wouldn't add as much weight to the back as it does right now. So there we go. But now let's get into the articulation. Alright, so in terms of articulation, this figure is actually really, really good. It has some really good articulation that I would actually say is even better than what we're seeing with Marvel Legends. Something that I would like to see, considering that this is Hasbro and they have the ability to, you know, to do this is just amazing. And that I feel that a lot of Marvel Legends should have articulation like we're seeing in these GI Joe lines. And let's just get into it. So first of all, starting at the head, it is on a disc hinge at the top, but then there's a dumbbell joint at the lower neck. So he gets this really good this good motion going on at the bottom of the neck as well. And we're starting to see that with some Star Wars The Black Series figures as well, as you've seen in my previous reviews with the Star Wars The Black Series Mandalorian. So the fact that Hasbro is now starting to do this, and we're starting to see this on other lines that Hasbro owns, is really good, but I would like to see it on some Marvel Legends coming up. So he does have butterfly joints, and it's the same on both sides of the left and right. His shoulders will go out that far. That's almost at 90 degrees going straight out. So that's really good. They will rotate 360 degrees all the way around the shoulder. He has a bicep swivel that is actually kind of hidden by this strap that's going across. So it really hides those points of articulation nicely. He has double jointed elbows, which meet at about a little over 90. He has these swivel joints at the wrist that are almost like a roll of the dice motion. I know that the exclusive version had interchangeable hands. This one does not. So these are the only hands that you get with it. So these are the only points of articulation you get in the wrist. At the torso and ab area, he has a really good ab crunch that goes forward almost 90 degrees and backwards that much. So that's something that I'd like to see in Marvel Legends. Like this Snake Eyes, for being a ninja, for being someone who's supposed to have all these martial arts abilities and history, I feel like this is the type of articulation we should see in a Spider-Man figure. He also has this lower diaphragm, not even diaphragm, but just like this waist joint, which kind of reminds me of the old G.I. Joe toys, because I had a few of those back in the day. I just had them for fun, but that's what that reminds me of. Let's see, this belt moves around a lot, so you might not be able to see this very well, but he does have a little bit of this kind of drop down hinge on his legs, so you could push him up that much and you get a little bit more drop down. I don't know if you can really see that, but inside the joint, the legs actually drop down a bit, so that's really neat, almost like the import figures. But here, let me get this sword off real quick. So the legs will actually go up that far, and that's with the belt being there, and also the sheath and the holster on this side, those pouches, those harnesses getting in the way, so it could actually go out that much. So that's actually really good for a just a 6-inch figure in general. He does have a thigh cut, double jointed knees that bend really good, really far, and then he even has a like this, I guess, calf cut. Yeah, this kind of like calf swivel going on right here. And then he has ankle pivot that goes to the side. It rocks really good. The ankles move that far down and they move that far up. They don't move very far up, so I guess that's the only hindrance of articulation there, is that the ankles don't move that far up. But other than that, this articulation setup that's on here is actually really good, and something that I would like to see on Marvel Legends figures in the future. Like, come on, Hasbro, please be a little bit more consistent with your lines of, this type of articulation should be the standard articulation that we see on a lot of 6-inch figures. And so the fact that we're seeing it here has made this figure just that much more fun to play with, to pose, to mess around with, just to get him in all these crazy shots and articulation and all these crazy poses and stuff. So that makes it really cool. Okay, so my overall thoughts on this figure is that it is an absolute 10 out of 10 must get. There's just so much potential with this figure here. Whether you have it as, a G.I. Joe fan, it's a must get if you are a G.I. Joe fan. Doesn't matter if you're a big fan, small fan, huge fan, or just beginning into kind of knowing what G.I. Joe is. I think it is an absolute must get. This figure is just absolutely amazing and possibly one of the greatest figures Hasbro has ever released. And that's just all across the board from all brands that Hasbro is in charge of. The articulation setup on this guy is very, very promising and something that I want to see in the future line of G.I. Joe, but also in the future lines of other properties that Hasbro is in charge of creating products for, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars. This is the type of articulation that should be the standard across the board. Just knocked him over. I see possibility of him, if you could get your hands on 2 or 3 of these, there's so much possibility for just even customs, just because of how the setup is of the articulation. One thing that I pointed out to a friend of mine was that I have this leather jacket and with this articulation setup, this leather jacket actually fits on there. I don't think I'm going to do it for this review. Maybe I'll post a picture sometime this week. But if you get a Spider-Man head, put it on here, paint it up black and silver or something like that, with the articulation on here, you could make a really cool custom Spider-Man Noir. And so there's just so much possibility with this figure, just even as an army builder of just like a ninja. If you were to get rid of replace the head with just a regular ninja head, or with just a regular some sort of head from maybe Marvel Legends, just like one of those plain heads that we get all the time. This could be a really cool army builder figure for a villain or whatever you want it to be. But it's just a great figure overall, and I highly recommend getting it. If you have this figure, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Of course, he's not standing now. Let's see. Can I get him to balance on camera? Posing on camera is always the worst. Okay, really? I had him in a good pose. I probably should have messed with him. Alright, but anyway, if you have this figure, let me know down in the comments below. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's a 10 out of 10? Do you really like it? Do you have the exclusive version that came out a few months back? Let me know. I wanna hear from you guys. Let's talk about some figs. If you don't already, go check out my Instagram. It'll be in the link of this video. Before, in previous videos, I used to post the same video on Instagram and on YouTube, but I've noticed I've been getting better responses on YouTube than I have on my Instagram. So I think I'm going to be switching over to YouTube a little bit more for videos and reviews, while on Instagram I'll probably just be posting more pictures of figures in a certain pose, or just whatever it may be. But make sure you go check out my Instagram, follow me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe, and even turn on notifications, because I will be posting a lot more and hopefully be doing some more reviews in the upcoming weeks. So until then, see you guys next time. Keep collecting. Peace.